There is more to me, Queen Eliara of Elfgard, than my elven magic. Just as there's more to Geico than saving you money, Geico also gives you 24/7 access to licensed agents online, on the phone, or on the Geico app. And while I am a mighty elf queen, I am also a mighty big fan of barbecue potato chips. Minions! More smoky mesquite.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
And welcome to a special Radulich and Broadcasting Network podcast, as it were.
You could. He was going to use special again. I know it.
I really was.
These are podcasts.
We're going to welcome to a podcast. It's special. Let's seriously, folks. We're doing something we haven't done on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network before. It's a different kind of show than we've done in the past. We are here to announce our first theme week. Now, we've done things like this before. Last year, when Batman v Superman came out, we did kind of an all things DC, and we played around with themes before. But this is the first time we have dedicated every single show on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network in a week to a particular subject. And the subject that we are celebrating this week is the character of Wolverine from Marvel Comics and as presented to you in the movies from 20th Century Fox films. And the dog is very excited about all of this.
I thought that was Wolverine.
So let's go through the shows that you'll hear starting this Monday, March 6th. You're hearing this live on March 3rd. And the reason why we are celebrating Wolverine is because of the release of Hugh Jackman's last portrayal in theory, provided he doesn't do some sort of Deadpool movie, of Wolverine in the movie Logan, or as some posters are now putting it, Logan the Wolverine, but whatever. Logan has come out today, March 3rd. We've got a slate of shows dedicated to that. So on Monday on Source Material, Jesse Starcher will be hosting that show and we'll be discussing the book Old Man Logan. On Tuesday, March 7th, Damn You Hollywood makes its glorious return to 2017. And we, of course, will be reviewing the movie Logan. And here's where this gets fun. On March 8th, the Metal Hammer of Doom will actually be participating in Wolverine Week as we get back we go in the Wayback Machine and we bring you Entombed Wolverine Blues. Yeah, we're going to review that Entombed album, not like the shitty redo with the one version of the Wolverine song that sucks. The original Entombed Wolverine Blues. And then finally, Thursday, March 9th, on trial, myself and Sean Comer will put X-Men Origins Wolverine on trial. Of course, I will be representing the law firm of Dewey, Screw 'em and Howe, and we will defend X-Men Origins Wolverine, and of course, Sean will prosecute. He always gets the easier job of the two. And I believe that is how we will conclude Wolverine Week. But like I said, tonight we've got something very special in addition to in making this announcement. We're going to have a panel discussion of all things Wolverine, his representation in the Marvel Comics, his history, his origin, as I said before, his representation on film, in cartoons, etc. Now, I am not the man for this job. I brought here the one man I know I can turn to for such things to guide the ship and take us where we need to go. The host of Source Material himself. He's not a horse. He's not a horse, of course. He's a host. You'll have to pardon me, folks. I'm winging it here. The host of Source Material himself, Mr. Jesse Starcher. How do you do, sir?
Mark Radulich, my man. I cannot wait. We are discussing one of my favorite comic book characters tonight. This is going to be a fun time. And we have brought on some guests this evening that have all been at least a reader of Wolverine at one point and have opinions on the character. So let me go ahead and we'll do a round introduction here and introduce everybody. You've already heard Mark Radulich bringing us in, myself, Jesse Starcher. Up next, the man, the myth, the legend, some other descriptor. His name is Jayson Teasley. Jayson Teasley, how are you doing this evening, buddy?
I'm exhausted. I'm trying to find my iPad, but I'm glad to be here. I've been waiting for this podcast for about 8 months. So here with you guys and talk a little Wolverine or Old Man Logan or whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, dude. I know that, when we discussed, talking about what we were going to do on source material, you were one of the first was like, hey, I got to be on that one. I've got to be on that one. We're going to come back and we'll do another round here and talk about how you came to the character. So be prepared for that. Up next, you've heard him here on source material many a times. Well, not here, but on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. Boy, it's going to be a tough one tonight to keep that crap straight. On the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, on my own show here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network source material, you have heard Ronnie Adams of the Screaming Boy podcast talk a lot of comic books with me. Ronnie Adams, are you ready to talk Wolverine tonight, man?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Are you?
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about?
How many people we got on here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people? I think this might be the most people I've had on a podcast other than when we did our trivia night.
Yeah.
5th person, bringing up the rear end. How do you like that one?
Sweet.
His name is Josh Calandros. Josh, buddy, how you doing this evening, man?
Doing well.
Doing well. Ready to talk some Wolverine, bub?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right.
Why not, right?
Okay, so here we go. Wolverine has been a comic book character that's been around since, let me find out. You'd think I would have had the notes ready for this one. Well, I can tell you I know his first appearance in comics. And I bet you if I pitched it to Ronnie Adams, can you name it off the top of your head?
Incredible Hulk, and I can't remember what issue.
Issue 180.
Yeah.
Issue 180 when he appears in the last panel, and then 181 where I believe he's fully part of the story.
I was actually going to throw it to Mark, but since he just went ahead and...
You don't need to throw it to me. I just take it.
Mark Radulich, big fan of the Incredible Hulk series. So, yes, he would most likely know the answer to that question. Wolverine shows up in... Incredible Hulk 181 for sure. Like he said, full appearance, which was published in 1974, according to this. Wolverine shows up, and I don't know if he takes the world by storm, but I can tell you right now, if you're going to appear in a comic book and you want to make a name for yourself, you fight the Hulk.
Yeah.
And you actually make an impression, not an impression in the ground after the Hulk beats you senseless. It's actually putting up a fight and going toe to toe with the Incredible Hulk himself. So let's go ahead. We'll start with Mark here. Mark, Wolverine, dude, anything in the comics that you can remember that really pop out to you originally? I know where you said your strengths were, but I figure let's find out what you remember in comics from that dealt with Wolverine.
My favorite memory of Wolverine was as a member briefly of the Fantastic Four, along with Hulk, Spider-Man, and I don't remember who the fourth one was.
Oh, that was the new Fantastic Four,
Ghost Rider.
Yeah, Ghost Rider, right.
Mm-hmm.
I love the cover of that, and it's funny. I love the fact that you went to me first, who's probably the least person you should have gone to.
I start weak, go strong. You know how I'm doing this, man.
I wasn't a fan of... I never read any of the Wolverine comics, any of his individual series.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even a huge fan of the X-Men. I was big into the Avengers. I read everything Avengers, including the West Coast Avengers. I might have even read the Great Lakes Avengers.
Uh-oh.
So
Josh is triggered.
So it's like I didn't have as much familiarity with the character. And then Marvel went into this phase where you were a popular character. You got 97 books dedicated to you. You were a part of every crossover, and you couldn't get away from the character, try as I might. I know growing up as a kid, if you were too popular, I ran away from you in terms of like media and culture. So once Wolverine sort of crossed over into that area where it was like everything has to be Wolverine, I was like, I want nothing to do with this character. It really wasn't until the 20th Century Fox started doing the X-Men movies I was more accepting of him, and that's because of Hugh Jackman's portrayal of the character, not to mention the fact that clearly 20th Century Fox were basing these movies around him. It was essentially the X-Men trilogy is a love story between boy meets girl, really. You know, Wolverine meets Jean Grey, they fall in love, they kill Scott Summers, and they go off into the sunset together. That's how I remember those movies. and even the prequel X-Men movies are somehow revolving around Wolverine. It's like, sure, this is the story of boy meets boy in Professor Xavier and Magneto and how they fell in love and went off into the woods together, but somehow Wolverine became a part of it too. These are my memories of these movies. So, in short, I've enjoyed him in the movies. I've enjoyed 20th Century Fox's obsession with revolving all of their movies around either him or Mystique. But as far as a comic book character, like I said, I thought it was fun when he was in the Fantastic Four for 5 minutes.
All right. Very good. Let's go ahead and we'll move over. Jayson Teasley, do you have any comic book memories of Wolverine?
Comic book memories, no. My first introduction to Wolverine was, like a lot of people's, was the magnificent, amazing Saturday morning cartoon of the X-Men.
Ah, yes.
So that's how my total introduction to Wolverine became. And actually, I didn't really get into reading anything of Wolverine until Calandros actually suggested Old Man Logan to me, along with him and Gavin Napier.
Mm-hmm.
Said that, it was a good read, that I should really look into it. It was something that was would be in my wheelhouse if I wanted a good Hulk Wolverine movie story arc to read. It was something to get my feet wet in the comic side.
Okay. All right. So you saw the cartoon first, then made your way into the comics.
That is correct.
Interesting. Very interesting. All right. Then Ronnie Adams. How about you, man?
Mostly the X-Men comics. I was a big 90s X-Men comic fan.
Mm-hmm.
Like most comic book collectors were. And then the cartoon, I really saw the character in that a lot. But I would have to say mostly the early 90s X-Men comics and then him crossing over. And I got into the whole Patch.
The Unlimited Wolverine series. I remember mostly, at least there were a few stories where he was Patch and was hanging out over in Japan or wherever. Yeah. I remember that. Like going low key or something like that. I don't know what he was trying to do.
Oh, I don't remember. I just remember I liked it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So 1990s, then you were probably Jim Lee X-Men?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, buddy. I hear you. One of the famed artists that ended up helping create Image. Of course, I know I've talked about them quite a few times on my podcast, but there's a lot of iconic images of Wolverine, and that to me is one of the probably top three is Jim Lee's drawn X-Men. Yeah. So, all right, Josh Calandros, how about you, man? Wolverine, what are your early memories?
I'm going to hold you to that comment earlier where you start slowing into strong. Right?
Uh-oh.
Welcome to our panel discussion of Wolverine where we all hate Wolverine. Go.
No, I probably got started a little bit earlier. I don't know if it was late 80s or early 90s, but it was the Marvel Comics Presents series.
Mm-hmm.
So it was basically kind of bits and pieces of the actual Weapon X project, I think, which was the first time that whole story was actually told.
So
that was kind of my first impression of it. I didn't have like a huge run of it. I was probably like 9, 10, 11 years old, but I had like 3 or 4 issues. And at that age, and just the whole imagery of him in the forest with the headset on and all the tubes hooked up to him, and he's like,
oh, that was fantastic.
It's just like the whole feral aspect of it really stuck with me. I watched the cartoon a bit. It was okay. I mean, I enjoyed it, but it didn't really stick with me necessarily as much. I'd completely forgotten about it, to be honest. But the next time that I got into it a little bit more is probably Age of Apocalypse, whenever he shows back up and he's got the one hand.
Yep, that's some good stuff there. Props to the creators of Wolverine real quick. Roy Thomas, this is straight off the wiki, created by Roy Thomas, that is a creator I've heard many times. Lynn Wein and John Romita Sr. all have their hand in the creation of Wolverine, the character. I want to give you my Wolverine, what we'll call the beats to me finding Wolverine. First, I remember the buzz about the first appearance of Wolverine. After Wolverine got hot and I started getting into comics, one of the big things that I first heard about was you got to get the first appearance of this character, which was all the rage, and it still is. I mean, you find the first appearance of a character in a comic book, it's worth something. So I grew up in an age of comics where, you wanted to get that number one or whatever because it was going to be worth $1,000. Well, first appearances were the same thing. So I heard about Hulk 181 probably shortly before I started getting into the character itself. Now, my first recognition of the character was in a storyline called Inferno. Now, I'm going to go ahead and bring up an image here because I can. Ronnie Adams, do you remember Inferno at all?
Yes.
Okay. I was a pretty young kid at this time, maybe 10. I think it came out in the late 80s, early 90s. I'm pretty sure it was like 88 or 89. This was a crazy crossover, right? And this right here was the start of, it was either the start of Inferno or the end of it. Now, if you guys can see the picture here, Wolverine is in the right-hand side, and he looks menacing as all get out. And as a matter of fact, in this storyline, he's kind of evil. So that was kind of my first introduction to who this guy was. He was I thought he was a bad guy. In reality, he almost has that attitude to easily be a villain, but he's got a sense of honor about him. The other thing, the next thing that I made sure to, after, discovering Wolverine and how awesome a character that he was, I found the first ever crossover of my other favorite character in Wolverine. And that, of course, is the crossover between him and the Punisher and Punisher War Journal. 2-issue series. These two guys fight for the first time. Now, the Punisher, that guy's not a mutant. All he's got is his guns. He goes up against Wolverine in this first ever meeting. And I'm like, okay, if anybody's going to take Wolverine to the max, I thought it would be the Punisher. Lo and behold, I think I gave the Punisher just a little too much credit there, because clearly Wolverine nowadays has the Punisher outmatched anyway, because we've seen all that Wolverine can do. But this was a crossover that I just couldn't wait to get my hands on, and I was collecting Punisher War Journal at the time. And man, it was a good story. Very good story. At some point will be covered on source material. And the last thing I want to bring up is this right here. And by the creators of the comic book that we're going to be talking on Monday. This is Wolverine in Civil War. This was the thing that brought me to almost, I don't want to say hate the character, but I really thought they went overboard in this story with Wolverine. Now, let's go ahead. Before we get into talking about some of that, let's talk about the character itself. Mark, do you want to do your best to kind of describe what Wolverine is, who he is, how he acts? Logan, if you will. Tell us about him. Give us your best description of him.
Well, I feel like he's evolved over the years from where he started in X-Men Volume 2 to where he would eventually go. I don't think they knew what they had on their hands when they threw him into the X-Men. He was he was about 4'7",
yeah,
and from Canada, and like the big heroes of the original, of that version of X-Men, was Storm and Colossus, and and I don't think they knew. I mean, maybe somebody can dispute this or debate it with me, but I just don't think anyone thought he'd be the standout character. So he played sort of a minor role, as I recall, in those first years of X-Men, and then he gains in popularity, and the book just shifts into focusing on him in a lot of ways, and then he starts getting his own books, and I feel like that's when they start putting a lot into the character, in as far as he's got this sort of antisocial streak in him. He's got this violent nature about him, where he becomes a killing machine, berserker rage, that sort of thing. Then they sort of evolved him into the modern day samurai, which sounds like it's a wrestling gimmick. Logan, the new world samurai, comes out to clutch music.
Sweet.
But I mean,
down.
I was a boy named Jordan. I come out here for a day. And by the way, my name's Wolverine. Anywho.
What is happening right now?
When I say, like, where's he getting this modern day samurai stuff? They started associating him a lot with Japan, and there's that whole series that the second Wolverine movie was based on. So they sort of brought him away from the animalistic components of his personality and gave him the sort of honor code. He was sort of like half cowboy, half samurai, which sort of linking this back to Old Man Logan, which we'll talk about on Monday. That's very much a Western story. And that's kind of what they turned Wolverine into, sort of half cowboy, half samurai. And I feel like that's where the character has landed.
I'm looking at a great website right now called comicbackissues.com. Has a timeline of events in Wolverine comics reading order. And they got quite a good listing of very important stories that occurred in Wolverine's comic book history, much of which Mark just mentioned. We have his battle with the villainous Sabretooth, that is, his mortal enemy. There is his love of Jean Grey, which was, I think we mentioned earlier, Cyclops' love interest, but there was always this love triangle kind of in the X-Men where Wolverine was, in love with Jean Grey. She was in love with Scott, Cyclops. The other thing that I forgot to mention was Fatal Attractions. Mark, do you, when I say Fatal Attractions, does that ring a bell to you at all?
Yeah, it's the movie where Glenn Close boils the bunny.
All right, Mark's muted. Now, how about Jayson Teasley? Jayson Teasley, have you ever heard of Fatal Attractions?
Yeah, I was with Mark. I was thinking boiled bunnies.
I'm with you. I have those books.
Yes, Fatal Attractions was where Magneto just goes off, and the X-Men fight him on, I think, Asteroid M, and Magneto rips the adamantium lace off of Wolverine's bones. And the big kicker at the end of that, obviously, it takes his healing factor to the nth level. The big kicker of that is at the end when he's, healing from this, trying to heal up from all this stuff that just got pulled out of his own body. He pops his claws, and you find that he actually still has claws. They're just bone, which was huge. I think one of the biggest factors that contributed to the popularity of Wolverine was that shadowy past that went on for years. There was nothing that described what his origins were for a very, very long time. Up until
forever.
It did, dude. And I think that's what people were like. And then when somebody said, okay, I think it was Joe Quesada, maybe it was somebody else, but when they said, okay, hey, we're finally going to tell the story of what the origin of Wolverine, where he was born, what his child life was like. And people crapped on that because some people wanted it, but others were like, no, we don't want this part of this character told because that is what makes.
I thought it was a joke.
A lot of people did.
Like it'd been so long. I think there's no way there's no way they're gonna actually.
I know, man.
Actually do it.
I know. So anyway, I think that was a big part of the allure of the of the character itself. We're spouting off stuff like adamantium skeleton, or we're spouting off stuff like healing factor. And I don't know if those who are listening right now have, any ideas of what we're talking about, but Wolverine was a mutant. Okay. He was a mutant that had an advanced healing factor. Like I said earlier, was born with these kind of Wolverine features with the claws, I guess you would say. But he ended up going into a program called Weapon X, which laced his bones with adamantium, and therefore you've got this. They wanted to use him as a killing machine, which they did at first until he finally escaped. And he's got that feralistic Wolverine mentality, almost unstoppable. And I want to go back to my point with Civil War, because that was my final point that I was going to make on my interaction with the character. Civil War in the comics. Wolverine, he is at the ground zero of a explosion that is set off by Nitro. Okay. I believe it's an explosion that Nitro sets off. Now, this is not the one that starts Civil War. This is way after. Mark Millar and Steve McNiven are the creators behind Civil War. Not behind this particular issue, though, because I think this happened in Wolverine. But anyway, Nitro explodes, a huge explosion, and Wolverine is, I kid you not, there is a panel of him being reduced to nothing but an adamantium skeleton. And then his healing factor kicks in and he regenerates fully. And I don't think it was within like days. I think it was within hours. He's back to normal. Now that's taking it just a little too far. That's probably my biggest criticism of what I've seen in the comics for Wolverine. So right at that point, Wolverine jumped the shark. Now things have changed since then. Wolverine actually in the comics is dead. He was killed. Ronnie, you've read it. I think Josh, you may have read it also. How did he die?
He was covered in molten adamantium.
So he's like a statue?
Yeah, the only way you could really kill Wolverine, from what I understand, was drowning. Even that sometimes, from some aspects, wouldn't kill him, but from some writers. But covered him in molten adamantium, and ain't no coming back from that.
You're not going to be moving anywhere, that's for sure.
Yeah, so
that would suck. That would suck.
But is it not safe to say that, like, if they find a way to get him out of there, he's going to be fine?
They're going to just, like, chip away?
Honestly, well, like, all the stuff that he's come back from, if they find some magical way to get him out of there, like, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Well, isn't the more important question how many versions of Wolverine are currently walking in this ridiculous universe they've created?
One.
Just one.
Yeah.
Just one right now.
And it's Old Man Logan, isn't it?
Right.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct. Yeah, he was... I think if you go back in the archives of source material, me, Josh, and Ronnie sat down and discussed what the end of Secret Wars was going to be at the outset of issue number 1. And I think one of the things that I said was it was just going to be a vehicle to bring Wolverine back into the universe, which it was, which is kind of cool. That's the Old Man Logan. I like seeing that. I'm a big What If fan. A lot of these stories that we're going to get into on Monday, especially that one, is something that takes place in a far out. Just like Mark, you had the Maestro. You know, he was in Secret Wars in the Battle Worlds universe, whatever. But it was neat to see some of those characters show up, and Old Man Logan was no exception. But he stuck around. Jayson Teasley, I'm gonna kick it back to you, and I just want to make sure you're still awake.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Let's talk about the films, okay?
Okay, let's talk.
Let's talk about them. You went and did you go watch the first X-Men in theaters, or did you wait till DVD? Because that was 2000, I think, right?
I've seen every X-Men in theaters.
Okay. Were you excited to know that to see X-Men on the screen, especially like Wolverine?
Yes. It brought joy to my heart to see, because like I said, I did grow up on the comic Saturday morning. But it brought joy, like, you know, most of us, seeing a childhood figure on the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing, especially knowing that they cast Hugh Jackman, that was early on. He really wasn't known for anything, at least to me. So I didn't really have any source material, cheap plug, to go on with them bringing him in as Wolverine. I knew the origins from what little bit of origins they gave in the Saturday morning cartoon, but like we've all said, Wolverine's always had that dark, seedy, unknown past, which has been manipulated, especially through the films.
Yeah,
in various directions. So you really don't know the complete backstory of Wolverine. There's still mystery there, and that's what makes it really intriguing as a character.
Mm-hmm. That's right. How about you, Josh Calandros? When Wolverine first showed up on screen, the first X-Men, were you pleased?
Yeah, I was pretty pumped because really those X-Men movies were before those first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, right?
yes.
I think so. Yeah.
So those were really the very first modern comic book movies that started this crazy, ridiculous industry that exists now. And I remember being crazy excited and really loving those first two X-Men movies because they were kind of the first ones.
How about you, Ronnie? Hugh Jackman portrayal of Wolverine in the films.
Well, I think he's amazing, to be honest with you. I think he's done a really good job, but I'm also coming from the era of where people wanted to see Glenn Danzig portray Wolverine.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Professor, I'm coming your way.
Yeah, exactly. And
don't you hear my claws? What they mean? What to say, Professor?
Wow. I think Josh said it all right there.
Too much Danzig.
Yeah.
I could do 5 minutes on how the gods kill if you want.
Oh, Ronnie Adams.
Yes.
Anything else you'd like to add before Mark starts singing again?
Oh God, yes. I will filibuster the crap out of this. No, I'm kidding. It's gotten to that point where seeing anybody else play Wolverine would just be kind of I will see. You know, he is Wolverine now.
It'd be interesting to see if they do any sort of the Logan Wolverine at all.
Yeah.
Because my guess is they won't.
Well, first of all, I've enjoyed the X-Men movies. Obviously, X-Men and X2 United of the original three were superior to the third part. I maintain that if you...
God, I could have written something that's superior to that.
I maintain that the third movie is defensible.
Trial!
If you divorce yourself from any knowledge of comic books, it actually works as a movie. You just can't have any foreknowledge of anything that came before it. But I mean, clearly they had in Hugh Jackman a great actor to portray this character. I mean, it's one of those where everything worked. Hugh Jackman worked as the character. The character was already popular. The movies sort of revolved around him, which people didn't seem to mind, I guess.
Yeah.
So really, outside of people's frustration with I get why people don't like the third one. I get that they fucked up the Phoenix Saga, which is a treasure in most comic book fans' minds and eyes. I get all that. But as I said, if you don't know anything about the Phoenix Saga, the comic book, and you don't know any, and you don't really, I mean, for God's sake, by the time they got to the third movie, clearly 20th Century Fox didn't care about James Marsden anymore.
No, they
and
didn't.
Unceremoniously wrote him out of the movie. Out you go, buddy. So, and I can understand that. I mean, if I'm a producer or studio executive, and it's like, okay, why do we need James Marsden around for? This is really about Hugh Jackman and Famke Jensen. I get why they did what they did. Movies are not comic books. Comic books can have 72 characters in them, and it really doesn't matter if some of them obviously don't get as much play as others. When you're creating sort of panel artwork, it's fun to see all of those characters in one thing. Movies are tighter than that, and the more characters you add, the more balls you have in the air you have to juggle. So, when you're talking about they need stuff for Patrick Stewart to do, they need stuff for Ian McKellen to do, and then they need to revolve the story around Hugh Jackman and Famke Jensen, someone has to go. So I was okay in that sense with Cyclops being written out. And then again, there was a lot of focus on the Mystique character as well. Yep. And then you have Academy Award winning actress and woman with huge boobs. That's one of my arguments for how good Catwoman is, by the way. Halle Berry. And it's like, okay, contractually she has to have shit to do in the movie too. So yeah. I think X-Men was one of these delicate balancing acts where they were trying to introduce new characters, deal with the old characters, give the main lead something to do, and it's not always easy. And then I enjoyed the little bit, or depending on which movie we're talking about, the big roles he had in the second series of X-Men movies with James McAvoy and what's his face there from Assassin's Creed. He has cameos in two of those movies, and he's a huge role in Days of Future Past, which Days of Future Past is probably one of my favorite X-Men movies. I really thought they did an excellent job with that.
I agree.
Yeah, that whole second trilogy was really solid.
Yeah.
As far as the actual Wolverine movies, I mean, Logan looks like it's already certified fresh. It's gotten nothing but good reviews so far, so we'll see what happens with that. X-Men Origins Wolverine, it's one of those where they tried, and I don't think they knew. It's one of those. We talked about this with Bane in Batman and Robin, or it's another situation like with Venom. All the studio knows is that the characters, Deadpool, Bane, Venom, they're popular. You want to get them into a movie at the height of their popularity, and that's all they know about the character. And the other thing you have to remember about movies is that they try not to do the strictest interpretations of the source material. Movies and movie makers are their own thing and are their own people. So if you know nothing about Deadpool or how rabid his fans are at the time, especially at the height of his popularity, why not make the Deadpool character that they made in X-Men Origins Wolverine? Which I feel like, other than it's a little boring, is the only complaint I've ever heard about it.
Why,
I mean,
why didn't they just name that character Mimic and it would have been fun?
Because who the fuck knows who Mimic is? I
Yeah,
don't know
but-
who Mimic is.
But that's where the dichotomy plays in, though, right? Because if you're going to do Deadpool, you're doing that because you're playing on the popularity of the character, and it's popular because people know who the damn character is. So if you put the character in there and he's nothing at all like the character, you're really completely missing the point of playing on the pipe. Like, it made no sense.
Well, I mean, Ryan Reynolds, before he becomes quote-unquote Deadpool, played the character just fine. And he had swords. And if I'm a studio executive, that seems like Deadpool to me.
Here's my biggest argument against all that, okay? You go to the comic and you pick up a Deadpool comic, all right?
Wait, whoa. Who's picking up the comic? Because if you think a studio executive picked up shit, you're crazy.
Now, why the hell would you pick okay, so you think that somebody said, hey, we're going to just throw Deadpool in here. Oh, okay, Deadpool, that's a cool name.
Have you
I'll
seen
work
Spider-Man?
on-
Have you seen Spider-Man 3 or read the notes about what that was?
Was it bad?
Wow.
Really bad.
I've watched it once.
Spider-Man 3.
That's been a long time.
Spider-Man 3 originally had a very tight script to it, and then there were studio notes that said like, "Hey, Venom's popular. Shove him in the movie somewhere."
Oh wow!
And that's exactly what it felt like.
Well, you can always tell when that happens too, though. You know, like you can tell, and I'd like to think that Fox over the years has noticed that the comic book movies that do the best are the ones that typically hold truest to the actual source material, like these Marvel Studios movies.
Well, they know that
The
now.
DC movies, well, yeah, and that's a fair enough point. I think DC hopefully learns that someday too. But like it's like the Marvel Studios movies have done that really well, and I think that the Fox movies are really kind of slowly kind of getting to that as well.
Well, you bring up you got to remember one thing. Marvel owns their content. Okay, so we're talking about Marvel Studios exists to make movies out of their comics, to essentially repurpose their comics to continue to make money in this other area. It's the exact opposite with the rest of these studios that license these things. They basically purchase a license for something and go, make a movie out of this.
Yeah,
And
they
that's it.
brand the milk.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean that's true.
Wow, yeah, that was really good.
Well, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so there's really yes, they've learned that lesson with Deadpool, but look at what it take to get Deadpool made the way that it got made. They had to leak footage, and and Ryan Reynolds went on forever trying to campaign for this thing, and there was changes in heads of studio, because originally the studio heads at Fox were like, nope, fuck you, this isn't going to happen. And then there was a change, and there was a change in favor of Ryan Reynolds on this project. And so it got made. But even then, they released it in February. There was definitely apprehension on Fox's part, because Deadpool in a lot of ways defied a lot of tradition in film, a lot of belief. And so now it's like 20th Century Fox is like, oh shit, especially in the wake of how bad Apocalypse did. They're like, okay, Logan gets made the way that it's currently made, because of Deadpool, and B, because Apocalypse falls flat.
Yeah.
And so to just sort of wind this back to Wolverine and where I was going with all of this, I think Wolverine has worked more often than not in the movies, because again, more often than not, I think the people involved in those projects on some level understand that they can't just go crazy and do weird shit with Wolverine. No one will they'll revolt. When they tried, people revolted. Like I said, I think Origins is defensible, and you'll find out more about that this Thursday. But, I mean, I'd be lying if I said, all of you guys hated it too. So, there's obviously an argument to be made for don't do shit like that. Try to stay as close to the source material as you can.
If you guys can look on your screen right now, I don't care if you're listening to this audio wise or not, but I have a iconic picture from Wolverine, X-Men Origins Wolverine here. And that is the one where Wolverine is, I think, standing on top of a silo, and Deadpool is right behind him. Okay. Now, if I say Deadpool, the Merc with, can you please finish that sentence?
I understand that's not Deadpool as we traditionally know him. And
the Merc without a mouth. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Or remotely.
I get that, but within the parameters of the movie itself, as if the comic book character never existed, they established that he was a motor mouth and annoyed people, and that he was an amalgamation of all of these different characters and their powers. And so if you're going to create a super being that eliminates the bad and only keeps the usable and the good, wouldn't you take away his ability to talk within the confines of the movie itself?
Okay.
I don't remember anything else from that movie to understand the context and speak back to that. It was completely blocked out of my memory. I would like to speak to that.
There was a Wolverine movie that starred Ryan Reynolds.
I'll tell you.
I'm amazed.
In defense of that pick, I did go see 2 movies on the same day. X-Men Origins Wolverine was one, and Terminator Genesis was the other.
God, you just make terrible decisions.
Was it no? Make that Terminator Salvation. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, Salvation's indefensible.
It was.
That's not even a client I'll take on.
I saw him on the same day. Took a buddy. I was like, man, let's go watch some movies. I got the whole day. Let's go watch some movies. Terminator movie, man. It's going to rock. Come out of that, I'm like, what the fuck? And then I come out.
Why did this happen?
Come out of Wolverine, and Wolverine's the better of the two. So anyway, okay.
This goes to show Jesse has made poor life decisions in the past.
When it comes to going to watch movies, I make really bad ones. Like I take people with me to go watch Star Trek 5. Or let's go watch Superman 4. Superman 4.
Why does God need a starship, Jesse?
I'm telling you right now, it's always, hey, Kira, you want to go watch your first movie ever in your whole life? Let's go watch Indiana Jones and the Temple, Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull.
Oh my God, that's new child abuse.
First ever movie.
I'm surprised CPS. I'm pretty sure the CPS was calling you and just.
Yeah, you totally got a treatment plan after that to screen movies before you show them to your children.
That's bad stuff.
My wife had never seen an Indiana Jones movie, and I was like, "Oh, perfect! There's one in the theater now. Let's go."
Ruined. I don't want to watch these anymore.
I've never been so angry walking out of a movie in my life than when we walked out of the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Like, especially the last 40 minutes. Like, up to that, it was like, this is shaky ground, but at least it's Indiana Jones. And then that last 45 minutes, you're like, nope.
Yeah, when you realize that they're like
aliens,
there's xenomorphs and it's aliens and shit, I'm like, what is happening? Like, I can defend Temple of Doom. I couldn't begin to defend. Like if someday Sean says we're gonna put Crystal Skull on trial and you have to defend it, I may quit the show.
One more quick thing about the Wolverine in the movies is that I was looking back through Hugh Jackman's filmography just out of curiosity, and that was really his first major movie. But props to the people that made X-Men who said, you know who we should make Wolverine? This guy that's done awesome musicals. Because before that, basically all he did was Beauty and the Beast, Oklahoma on theater, and then like a couple of TV shows of like no note whatsoever. And obviously, afterwards and before then, he was known as like a musical actor. And I think that's super funny to think that like we've got this list of people trying out. Like, this Hugh Jackman guy's done a lot of sweet musicals. This should be promising.
Well, I think you're really onto something there because they're trying to figure out where to go with Wolverine. And I know that they're gonna restart a new series of movies with the chick playing X-23 from Logan. Let's just go ahead and say it. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
However, people still want more Hugh Jackman Wolverine. And I think you're onto something. Wolverine the musical.
The musical?
You know what? No, like I think just do the other musicals he's already done again with him as doing it as Wolverine instead.
No, isn't what he's in like Les Miserables? Or am I thinking of? No, he's in Les Miserables, isn't he?
Yes, yeah.
I need Russell Crowe as Sabretooth and Wolverine and Hugh Jackman as Wolverine doing Les Miserables.
I mean,
He was Gaston in Beauty and the Beast on theater. I just want like Wolverine as Gaston in Beauty and the Beast.
Oh,
like
my God.
nothing else changed.
No.
Nothing else changed.
No. So if we're doing hang on.
Like
If
him
we're doing
spinning and
another
dancing and accidentally popping the claws and
If we're doing another Beauty and the Beast, it has to be Logan as the Beast and The Rock. And I don't mean like Dwayne Johnson. I mean the actual Rock as Gaston. The Rock says, "Kill the Beast."
oh, that's got promise.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it does, my friend.
Sadly, some Hollywood exec is listening to this right now. Going, this is a good idea.
Yeah, write it down. Rock can do anything. So
I've helped them out in the past. I will continue to until someone starts to actually pay me for this.
That's right. That's right. All right. Let's go ahead. We'll start wrapping up our discussion. I mean, last question on Wolverine. We're doing this in preparation for Old Man Logan. So let's go ahead. We'll do around the table your thoughts on if you're excited for the movie, you hope it's going to be good, or if you're just like, I ain't going to this shit. Let's go ahead. Jayson Teasley, Old Man Logan. What is it called now? So, help me out because I always call it something.
The movie's just called Logan.
Logan. I'm always mispronouncing it.
That's where I'm from.
That's right. That's right. All right, Logan.
Three of us are from.
Jayson
Is that going to be like the coal mining industry downfall and the OxyContin running rampant?
I think that's what they do in this movie is that it's all just like a desert wasteland, so the metaphor is direct.
Okay. I'm right there with you.
Oh, Lord.
In the wasteland of West Virginia.
Well,
this might have been
has
filmed in
something
Logan.
there.
I mean, it has become a wasteland. But yes, I'm very excited for this simply because I'm a big fan of the comic once I got to read it. And of course, we all know that this is going to be a loosely based adaptation because once we, next week when we get into, or whenever this airs, everybody gets to listen to our in-depth, lovely discussion of the story arc of Old Man Logan and see all the characters that would need to be involved for it to hold true to the comic book source.
Yeah.
But I think that with this being the loose adaptation, I think it's going to do a lot better than Wolverine Origins, and it's definitely going to be better than the Wolverine. Because
what's your problem with the Wolverine?
How they did Silver Samurai.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay.
Well, hey, don't cuss me, or I will build a snowman with you.
Don't you cuss me!
It's one character they fuck up.
You shut your whore mouth.
All right.
I'm talking. You'll get your chance to talk.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mark, you can talk.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I don't understand. I mean, the Wolverine is a great movie. When it gets to the end with the Silver Samurai, it gets a little silly.
That's the only problem I have with the Wolverine. I thought it was great up to that point, and then it just kind of the whole thing with the Silver Samurai just poo-poos on it just poo-poos the entire experience for me, and the way they teased at the end, you really was hoping for a payoff there at the end. Lady Death.
Oh, Lady Death.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And they teased that, and it never got the payoff, and it was like, I think that those two things took the experience that I had with the Wolverine. It dampened my experience with the movie because up to the non-payoff of Lady Deathstrike and what they posed as the Silver Samurai, I was fully into the Wolverine, but then it just kind of let me down dramatically.
Well, then let's go ahead. We'll go over to Mark Radulich. What are your expectations for Wolverine Logan?
Well, first of all, I think we're using the wrong word comparing Logan to Old Man Logan. I think Logan draws inspiration from Old Man Logan, but it is not an adaptation.
Okay.
There's no fucking way you can adapt. This you're not in this universe. So I think and it's not even close to that story, from what I can tell. There's an inspiration in that both Old Man Logan and Logan, the movie, have a Western motif to them, and that Wolverine is sort of, as he was in the comics, has become something of an outlaw cowboy type. In as far as my expectations of this movie, I expect it to be good. I expect that this is going to be a passing of the torch to the X-23 character, and she'll probably be in like the New Mutants movie or whatever they're planning to do later on.
Oh yeah, that would work out real well.
Yeah, I know they're doing a New Mutants movie. I expect she'll be in it. Because if you're thinking it's going to be the New Mutants actual, like from the book, you're crazy people. That's a studio executive going, who's real popular among the X-Men we haven't used yet?
Wolfsbane.
There we go. So
Wow.
There's a reach.
Okay. Who's not going to be in Deadpool? We'll put them in the New Mutants.
Cypher.
You mean the guy whose mutant power was to understand language?
So awesome.
Other than that, from what I've read about it, it's, a lot of reviewers have said when they're not making you cry, they're filling the screen with blood. So I think they're going to take advantage of the room they'll have with the R rating, which will be a different experience with these things. So I mean, that's it. Those are my expectations. I don't expect it to suck.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Josh, how about you, man?
Yeah, I'm really pumped for it. When I first heard the news about it, I think it was just kind of, you're starting to hear just little rumors about it, and you heard that like Old Man Logan was going to be. It wasn't sure at the time, but that was being tossed around in the same vein of the movie, and I was like, that's going to be bad because there's just no way you can do that in the movies realistic. Like nobody's going to put the money up for that type of a story because you're not going to draw on the overall target market that's the Avengers have built up, and it'll just never happen. But I don't think
anyone would want to see it. I mean,
no, yeah, it would, no, yeah, it animated maybe, but even then, it just can't work. But I think that once I saw a couple of pictures, I was like, that looks kind of cool. But that first trailer was the first trailer that came out and had the Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash.
Yeah, dude. Like I was like, okay, this is gonna be amazing, and I really like that they're doing X-23, the Laura Kinney character. I really, really like that they're doing her even younger than they did in the comics and X-Men Evolution, because that obviously gives her more time for screen time if it works out with her in the storyline and it works and everything. So I think it looks so far from some of the ones that are more violent, some of the ones that aren't. I think it's got a lot of potential. I'm really excited for it.
I think Winfrey and I said that this is probably going to be the first movie of the year to crack $1 billion. I think this becomes a huge hit for Fox. And if it doesn't hit $1 billion, it's definitely going to be in the top 10, which Apocalypse did not make.
Well, now,
you don't think Lego Batman's going to hit it?
It hasn't yet.
You said this is a rated R film, though, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you think that'll hamper it?
No.
Okay. All right.
Not especially after the success that
Deadpool
got. Yeah, I mean, there's no way that could hamper it whatsoever.
All right, fair enough. All right, Ronnie, how about you, man? Get your say in here.
I'm super pumped for it. I'm always excited for unfortunately, I'm always excited for the X-Men movies. Most of the time.
Don't you be ashamed.
Well, I'm not, but I mean, like the third one, I don't care what you say, Mark. I hate it. The second one and the first one were good. But like, I actually enjoyed Origins, the Wolverine, just the whole Wolverine story.
Hey, real quick.
Yes.
Top 10 grossing R-rated, domestic grossing R-rated movies of all time. Number 1, Passion of the Christ. Number 2, Deadpool.
Wow.
And
those are opposite ends of these.
Yeah, I was going to say, you could not find two more
separate movies.
Wow.
You want to hear the rest of this list?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Again, this is domestic, not worldwide.
Okay.
So again, The Passion of the Christ is number 1, Deadpool number 2, American Sniper number 3, The Matrix Reloaded number 4, number 5, The Hangover, number 6, The Hangover Part 2, number 7, Beverly Hills Cop, number 8, The Exorcist, number 9, fucking Dead. And this is why we can't have anything nice in this country.
What was the number 9?
Ted.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And number 10, Saving Private Ryan. So the bookends here are Saving Private Ryan at $216 million and The Passion of the Christ at $370 million. By the way, that's only $7 million more than what Deadpool made.
Wow.
Domestically.
That's sad.
Us Americans, we love our movies. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, a foul-mouthed mutant made more than the savior of... or almost.
Actually, I can tell you what it made worldwide. Worldwide, the Passion.
No, I don't want to be disappointed in humanity.
You're about to be.
Oh.
The Passion of the Christ worldwide made $611 million. Fucking Deadpool made $783 million.
Oh my goodness!
See, no.
Oh hell, Deadpool.
Nailed it.
Okay, all right, Ronnie, go ahead and finish up your thoughts on Logan.
I don't even know where I was going with it now.
Are you going to the theater?
Yeah, I'll go to the theater and see it because I'm pretty pumped about it. One of the best things about all the X-Men movies is Hugh Jackman as Logan, as Wolverine, and I'll stand by that because he does such a good job at it, in my opinion. There's a lot I could say. I'm not going to go into the third X-Men movie. He made it tolerable, and believe it or not, I actually enjoyed Frazier as Beast.
Yeah,
he'll never not be Frazier. But I thought he did a good job, as Hank McCoy. But the main draw for me in those movies are daggone Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, he's definitely taken control of that role and has done a great job. So it's kind of nice to see if this is his swan song as he leaves the mutant franchise. I'm excited to see it as well. So, all right, well, Mark, unless you have any closing thoughts before we move on to our next project.
I do.
Okay, please.
All right. First of all, I want to thank everybody for joining in on this panel discussion of Wolverine Week. Again, I would like to encourage all of you listeners who have downloaded this after the fact or listening to it live to please check out our shows next week. Again, Source Material kicks us off on Monday with Old Man Logan, the inspiration for the movie Logan. And then Damn You Hollywood with myself and Robert Winfrey. We'll be reviewing the movie Logan. We'll talk about the money. And then, of course, we'll be bringing back ripping apart the critics. So I don't know how many of them are going to be left to rip apart if this movie is like almost 100% certified fresh. The Metal Hammer of Doom. We'll be reviewing the original Entombed Wolverine Blues. And then on Thursday, as I have alluded to today, once again, I will show you why every one of you who didn't like X-Men Origins Wolverines is wrong. And that will conclude Wolverine Week. We're very excited about this. We're going to promote it very heavily. All these guys are going to put it on their Twitter and their Facebook. It's going to be great. We're going to have a lot of fun this week. I really encourage you all to listen to all these great shows.
All right, very good. Well, with that being said, my name is Jesse Starcher. That was Mark Radulich. We have Jayson Teasley in the house. We had Josh Calandros in the house. And we had Ronnie Adams of the Screaming Boy Podcast in the house. Again, thanks to everybody that's joined us, and good night.
Another breakout? Today? Really? Oh, it's not that bad, they say. I can barely see it. But yeah, right. Get real. It's time for this to end. Thanks to my new Biore Charcoal Acne Scrub with natural charcoal, I can fight even the most annoying breakouts. How? It scrubs out acne causing dirt and oil for clearer skin in 2 days. So peace out, pesky pimples. With Biore, I've finally found the skin of my dreams.
Biore. Free your pores.